The key is wherever there's hip hop, Karl Kani fashion goes.
At its height, what was Karl Kani earning?
Man, like in our biggest years is like 92, 93, 94. We was averaging about 200 million a year. I always had this thing in my mind, like I can never go back to Brooklyn not successful. You know what I'm saying? I'll go back to there's nothing to go back to. Sometimes you need something that you fear to make you work hard.
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say? I feared going back around the way again. When the market switched and everybody's like, oh, we want to go skinny jeans now. All the retailers said, you know what? We don't want nothing urban anymore.
Wow.
So all the urban brands, they didn't want it anymore. Everybody wanted a new look.
I remember that.
You know
that's where I lost my money.
Yeah, everybody wanted a new look.
It is an honor, privilege, and a pleasure once again to be joined by a true scholar, a pioneer, someone who has paved the way for so many in the hip-hop culture since the 90s and beyond. Truly an expert in his position, in all that he's created, in his former work. The Godfather of streetwear, the one and only Karl Kani.
Sir.
My brother.
What's up?
Pleasure to see you, man. And I feel like, it's an honor really when like I said at the beginning, because all that you've done for the culture, sometimes I feel like people just, it goes by and people don't really acknowledge, and you deserve the flowers for, the fashion game that we see now, when we see everybody from the Ye's and the Pharrells and the Travis Scotts and the Rihannas. You were one of the first, if not the first, to bring hip hop in fashion and utilize your own name. So I really want to dig in deep to your expertise in that space, and really just as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, as a mogul. You changed the game and inspired so many, man. So it's an honor to sit down and talk with you. I gotta say, we gotta start at the beginning. First of all, is Karl Kani your real name?
Well, Karl Kani is my real name now.
Yeah.
It wasn't my birth name. So my birth name was Carl Williams, and I changed it to Karl Kani when I became a citizen in 1998.
Oh, so from Costa Rica?
Of course, I was born in Costa Rica. So my family's from Costa Rica and Panama.
Okay.
So my dad's from Panama, my mother's from Costa Rica, and me and my sister was born in Costa Rica as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So and then, so what does Kani mean?
Yeah. So when I started doing my clothing, I wanted to come up with a name for my brand, and the only designers we knew at the time were the designers that we were wearing. Ralph Lauren, Donna Karan, Tommy Hilfiger, Jabot, Giorgio Armani, George Marciano. So I wanted to be like them. I said I want to be a designer name. So Karl Williams Jeans just didn't really have a good ring to it.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? I wanted a name that had meaning to it. Kani was a question I used to ask myself all the time. Can I be successful? Can I come from the inner city and build a brand that's going to compete against the big dogs out there? And I knew if I called myself Kani, every day I have to answer that question. Yes, I can.
Wow. That's fire. I never knew that. So Karl Kani. Yeah, can I be successful? And clearly the answer is yes. So you started out, did you come from Costa Rica and then come out to the West Coast?
Nah, so we came from Costa Rica and moved to Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, I was about to say. So
to Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. Yeah.
Yeah.
We moved to Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. And how I got into fashion, my dad used to get his clothes tailor-made.
Right.
My dad's from Panama. He wanted his clothes made a certain way, and they didn't have it in the stores at the time. So he used to go to his tailor in Flatbush and make his clothes for him. So I used to have to go with him every Saturday to go to Delancey Street, buy his fabrics, and then go back to Flatbush to his tailor. So I was kind of paying attention, but not really.
Yeah.
So my mom and my dad got divorced. We ended up moving to the inner city in East New York, in Flatbush. East New York, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And when we moved out there, it was very competitive. Everybody was like, who got the freshest sneakers on? If you ain't fresh, you get dissed. So that's what made me start thinking about making my own clothing. I wanted to compete with a lot of guys that was out there and wear something that they didn't have.
Yeah, that's dope. So when did the Karl Kani boom take over? Because as a kid, I just remember seeing everybody with we didn't know what it was like. Does that say Kani or Kani? What is that? But it was like everybody had the Kani shirts on or the hoodies, and obviously the famous, footage of Pac wearing it, and just, in the tied up beanies that said Kani. So is that when it started, or take us back a little bit before then?
Yeah, so basically the whole concept started back in Brooklyn, like I say, 86, 87. I was making my own tailor-made clothing, right? So I was getting some compliments in the hood about the clothing I was wearing, everybody's coming up to me, man, where'd you get that from? Because no one had the baggy look that I was wearing
Yeah.
at the time. So I'm not about to tell them about my tail. I said, if you want one, I'll make you one. So I started making clothing for dudes in the projects. That's how it really started, right?
okay.
You know, back then everybody was hustling. You know,
Right,
everybody
right.
had money. So I was selling to a lot of dealers on the streets. And the most important day of my life that ever happened was in 1988. We were sitting in the park, and I was bragging to these girls, telling them that I made this outfit for this dude named Joe, right? He was a really popular dude in the projects. They didn't believe me. So this girl named Keisha said, tell him to come over here then. He comes over, she says, who made that jacket for you? He says, Carl made it. Why, what's up? She says, can I see it? And I didn't know where she was going with this. She starts looking at the jacket. She's like, if Carl made it, how come his name ain't on it then? That's when it hit me. 'Cause I wasn't thinking about being a designer. That wasn't the last thing on my mind. Because, you know, a lot of times it takes someone that looks like you to achieve success on a certain level to make you feel like if he could do it, I could do it.
Right.
And there was no black designers before me to make us even feel that you could put your name on clothing and it's going to sell.
Yeah.
After she made that comment, she was really right because anybody could say they made that outfit. But I didn't have no label in it.
Yeah.
So that's when I went home and I started thinking of a brand name. That's when I came up with Kani. So basically, we started dressing a couple of dudes there. And my friend named AZ, he caught a case and he's supposed to go to jail. And he ended up coming to California, living in Orange County.
Yeah.
So he hits me up on the phone. He's like, yo, what you doing? I said, I'm doing this custom made clothes. He said, why don't you come to LA and do it? I said, I ain't come to LA, man. Ain't nothing but white girls and beaches out there, man. You know, back then, it was no internet. So you just see what you see on TV, right? So he convinced me to come to LA. We found a store on Crenshaw Boulevard, 4312 Crenshaw.
That's what I remember. That's what I was saying. I thought the first pop off was on Crenshaw.
Yeah, so we just opened a store on Crenshaw. We thought we was about to get paid, man. You know, we got to be paid. So the dudes out here wasn't buying none of our clothing. It wasn't popping off. Then we bumped into Ice-T in the club.
Oh, wow.
And then from Ice-T, led to Eazy-E, led to Snoop, led to Dre. And really, that's what really set it off, man. You know
what year was this?
This is like, we came out here in 89. We met Ice-T in 90. Then we met Eazy-E right after that, 91.
Yeah.
And that led into Snoop, Dre.
How'd you meet? Was they coming into the spot on Crenshaw? Or?
Nah, we used to going out every night in the clubs.
Oh, okay.
We was just hustling, man. You know,
and then did you have the Kani logo and all that?
Yeah, we had the Kani logo on it like that. So we was like hustling the clothing like that. But our first big break, though, what happened was we put an ad in Ride On magazine.
Oh, right.
Remember Ride On? Ride On and Word Up.
Word Up. Yeah.
So we put an ad in there. So kids was calling from all over, 1-800-221-KANI. You know, trying to get our clothing. At the time, we wasn't in a lot of stores, so we asked the kids when they call, where you shop at? So all the kids would tell us the names of the stores. Then we'd tell them, well, call the store and tell them you want to call Kani.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it all started.
Oh,
but
that's dope.
Our big break came, though, was like Cross Colors was already doing their thing at the time.
Yeah.
Another black-owned company, and they had financing behind them.
Right.
So we met up with Cross Colors at Hollywood Palladium in Hollywood, and I told him about my brand. He said, I heard about it. I seen your ad. So he told me meet him at his office. I came down there, but then the first 10 minutes, he's like, yo, I heard about your stuff. You need some help. I'll be willing to help you out.
Wow.
And so my heart started jumping. I'm like, what does he mean help me out? Where I'm from, nobody just help you out like that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, wondering where's he going with this? So he ended up putting the money behind the brand, and we took off like overnight, man. Just like exploded just like that. We had like all the biggest accounts, merry-go-round and DJs and some of the biggest stores back then.
Facts.
So really, man, that was like the blueprint and the set off to the foundation of Karl Kani brand.
Man, that's amazing. And like really to like you said, what, 16 years old is when you started making clothes. And then by the time, how many years later?
Like I was 21 when I came to California.
Wow.
To start, I was 21 when I came to LA to start the brand.
So still a young man and now having an entire empire. It's inspirational, man. And the fact that you set out or that it wasn't necessarily a vision to be in fashion and now to be the godfather of streetwear. I mean, how do you perceive all of that to where it was it destiny? Was it, or is it just because obviously there's a lot of hard work that went into this as well?
Absolutely. I feel like coming from where I come from, man, if you see opportunity, you got to seize the moment. And like failure was never an option in our mind, or we just wanted to be successful. We wanted to get out there and be successful. So we knew every day we had to stay focused and laser driven on our goals. So coming out here, I knew that we weren't going back home not successful.
Right.
And that was just enough to keep you going every day, looking for that one positive sign to keep you going to the next chapter. So that's really what kept us going as a brand and motivated us to stay where we are today.
Right. So at its height, what was Karl Kani earning?
Man, like in our biggest years is like 92, 93, 94. We was averaging about 200 million a year back then.
That's
combined with cross colors and us together, we was almost doing half a billion dollars in sales a year between both of our companies during that time period right there. We had a good run, great marketing, great branding, and great support from the hip hop community and TV shows as well. Martin and Live in Color, all those shows that we changed the game in terms of product placement and marketing and things like that. Grassroots marketing didn't exist before we did this.
I remember back in the day too. Your logo probably was one of the first logos that I would see. They would blur out on television.
Oh yeah.
What was that about?
I'm gonna tell you what that's about. So basically, we was getting so big that MTV wanted us to run commercials on MTV at the time. So we were like, why do we need to run commercials? Everybody's wearing our clothes anyway on the shows, right? So MTV's like, really? All right, we're gonna show you something.
Right.
They start blurring out the logo, so they couldn't tell people what not to wear, but what to wear. But no one really wanted a big blur following through the videos. You know what I'm saying? So that made people start wearing either no logos or smaller logos on their stuff. But that's where it all started.
It kind of made it it gave it some edge because it's like, yo, why they blurring out Karl Kani?
Yeah.
Like, what's up with that? We gonna wear it more. We gonna support even harder.
That's right. That's right.
And another thing that I didn't know. I kind of heard a little rumblings of what you're clarifying it now that Cross Colors and Karl Kani were kind of together.
Yeah, we're partners. Yeah, we're under one umbrella, Threads for Life Corporation. I was the name of the corporation. It's Threads for Life. It was 2 Black-owned companies running the industry, man. We was like, man, we did so much for the industry. Like, when we started, there was no stylists.
Yeah.
There was no Black marketing departments. There's no street teams. There was no Black sales reps that selling the stuff to the stores. I was able to hire my friends to rep my brand.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So I just hired young, Black, smart people who know how to talk well. I wanted them to represent my clothing when they go onto the stores to sell the clothes, as opposed to the traditional sales reps, white guys in business suits trying to sell clothes like that. We wanted to keep the culture real, and that's why we opened the doors up for so many people to come in. A lot of people that work for me end up going off to all these other urban brands, running these other urban brands, the Sean Johns and the Fat Farms and the Rockawares and things like that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that too, because being the pioneer that you are, I mean, you started off a lot of other people's careers. And I mean, even being an icon in the space, who are some of the other people that started, with you or started under your tutelage that, now we see are got their own brands or even in the hip hop game?
Yeah, well, basically, most of the people that work for me is more executive status. So like Teresa Stallworth, Teresa Scott, Teresa Scott ended up going running Rockaware.
Wow.
Jeff Tweedy worked.
Shouts out to Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff Tweedy worked for me. He ended up running Sean John. Right. Q ended up going to Fat Farm.
Wow.
So like we was almost like the school of streetwear philosophy and fashion.
The originators
of that. But the thing about it, all these people didn't have any past experience in the clothing industry because there was none of us in the clothing business. We opened it only because we were successful. Everybody started embracing the Black culture now in this business.
So there wasn't like the Magic Clothing Convention was because now, I mean, even when I was in the apparel space, I was like 15 years ago, it was like a big party in the convention center. It was like nothing but urban brands everywhere you went. So clearly that wasn't around back then, right?
Well, no, Magic's been around forever, but there was no Black people at Magic. Magic's been there. The Tommy Hilfigers and the Ralph Laurens and all these other brands, they've been doing Magic for years, since the 80s. Magic's been around since the 80s. Magic actually started in LA first, then it moved to Vegas. So when we went to Magic, Cross Colors and Karl Kani, we're the only Black, was only us two there.
Oh, wow.
We were standing next to Calvin, Ralph, and all of them.
Oh,
and they were complaining to Magic. They didn't like the traction we were getting at our booth because we had people lined up around the corner to get our stuff. And they were kind of like salty because people were standing in front of their booth and things like that.
Blocking their booth.
Yeah, blocking their booth. So what ended up happening, as the popularity of streetwear started to open up, Magic's like, they didn't want to get rid of us. So what they did, they started a whole new section. And left Ralph and them alone. Let them do their thing.
Gave you guys the urban
section.
Separated
us and gave us our whole section back there. And that's really how it all started, because 91, 92, and it wasn't until like 94, 95 you started seeing the urban section start to build, but we already been opening up the floodgates already.
Man, so being that, you paved your own way, you created a space as a entrepreneur, what would be some of your advice to, not even just if somebody was looking to get into fashion, but if somebody was looking to blaze their own trail as a future mogul?
I would say the most important thing is, like, if you can't see it, you can't be it, right? You can never get to where you're going if you don't know where you want to be,
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say? So like you gotta have a plan. And no matter what, the last thing you think about every night is success. The first thing you think about in the morning is
Mm.
success.
Mm.
You write down your notes and you lock in, and nothing else is important in your life anymore.
Right.
But once you sign that contract with yourself, it's game on. And you got to live by that every day. See, my journey started, man, when I was even like 12 years old. I used to get up at 5:30 in the morning to deliver newspapers just to get money because I wanted
Right.
clothing. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I say, it's not the things my mother gave me, it's the things she didn't give me.
Yeah.
She was not giving me any money to buy any extra sneakers.
Right.
She told me, go find yourself a job. She was
Right.
just saying it to get me out her face, but I took it literally. I want to find myself a job because I wanted fashion that bad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome, man. That's that grind. That's that hustle.
That's right.
So now it feels like high fashion has definitely embraced, streetwear and urban fashion. Specifically, I mean, even we got OGs and legends like Dapper Dan, who went on to have his own collection at Gucci. And, you could just tell, like, even Fashion Week now is full of us. It's just full of hip hop artists. Like, before we didn't even get invited to that stuff. Um, as the Godfather of streetwear, and really, where does Karl Kani fit in that space? And then when you see that at the highest level now, Pharrell being the creative director for Louis Vuitton, and the level of shows that they put on in Paris and Milan and all that stuff, like, how does that make you feel? And then how does that encourage you to say, all right, I need to be rocking just Karl Kani is still just as present as it ever was.
Absolutely. So, first of all, I feel like it's elevation. It's moving the machine forward. So those are all good things that's happening.
Yeah.
If Pharrell and them is bringing our culture along with him on the ride and showing us different ways how to look at things, putting us in different rooms we've never been in, then good for him, good for the brand, good for the culture. You know what I'm trying to say? And you can't like sit here and complain about where things are going because it doesn't matter. It's going to go there anyway.
Yeah.
You got to find your lane within that place and do that. And once you uplifting the culture and bringing people along, that I think is a great thing because those things is really what help propel Karl Kani brand. Because like in the 2000s, like say 2011, 2012, our brand wasn't really popping here in the U.S. the way we wanted to, right?
Right. Tell me about that.
So many doors opened up for us on the international level. Right now, we're the #1 streetwear brand in Europe, right?
Really?
Our foundation our headquarters is in Germany. We have 10 flagship stores in Japan.
Wow.
And we distribute in 25 foreign countries.
Wow.
Our partners in Germany is a company called Snipes. They're the #1 streetwear retailer in Europe. They just opened up 400 stores here in the United States, in Philly, Baltimore, New York, Jersey. So I've been rocking with them since 88, 89. The key is, wherever there's hip hop, Karl Kani fashion goes. You feel me? That's the reason why we was able to establish ourselves internationally, because hip hop music started becoming popular, then the clothing kind of went along with it.
Right.
And those images you see of Tupac, Biggie, the song mentions of Nas, Dr. Dre, Snoop wearing the clothing. That's the goal. That's the ticket. That's something that many brands can never replace that and do that.
Man, that's because it's foundational at this point. I mean, it's hallmark. I mean, when you see that Karl Kani logo, and the thing, like, I've seen, the new stuff is fire, the lookbooks, all of that stuff is fly, but then it's like, can we still get the Kani hoodie or the Kani t-shirt? Are those still available?
They're still available, and as a matter of fact, we got a box for you that's in the room right there.
I'm rocking. I'm gonna rock it heavy. And it's funny because as someone who dabbled, in the apparel space early on, like I was inspired by you, and then even obviously, I started really paying attention like around FUBU, and then that's when I felt like everything from Aniche to LRG, and that's kind of when I got into the business. And I had a store on Melrose. I had purchased PNB Nation, which was also a brand that came out of New York, and I learned so much and lost so much money, because I was in the space of denim, and we was going to Japan and everything, and making sure that's when all the Japanese denim was the big thing. So we was charging $1,000 per pair of jeans, and was making sure we had gold thread and all the trim and all but I lost a lot of money because one of the things that I learned is, like, when you have a brand, sometimes that's your #1 seller. Like when you could just sell a t-shirt with the logo on it. Well, you don't got to do all of the stuff that you got to do because you try to sell a $1,000 jean and the margins ain't. And then when you think you put them in Macy's and it's like, oh, we got the hugest order, and then they send that shit back.
Chargebacks, yeah.
And you like, wait, so not only did I not make the money I thought I made, now I'm in debt because I got all of these jeans and nobody wants them. And so literally, I mean, my store on Melrose just became like a party spot, and I was just giving out free clothing, product placement. But for someone who is aspiring to be in the fashion space today, what are the best tips? You know, especially even like, because you know, I was trying to follow after Puff and Jay, and you know, I was right around that time, and I think I got it right when hip hop fashion started to change. So like all these oversized jeans and big logo hoodies and stuff, people didn't want that no more. It was right when Jay was like, all right, we gonna button up. And I'm like, oh, you know, like
now.
yeah. So what would be your advice for, you know, as you look at the landscape of urban fashion today?
Yeah, so I would tell people certain things that I would have done differently in the United States market back in the days that we didn't do, was just establishing your basics. You know what I'm saying? Basics is something that it's a simple product, but it's hard to establish a good basic, right? You know what I mean? Like Levi's mastered basic jeans and denim. That's why they'd be around forever, right? Calvin Klein established underwear. It's a great basic. It's gonna be around forever.
Kim Kardashian,
Skims, you know what I'm saying?
Basics.
Simple, basic, simplicity. And that's the hardest thing. Sometimes as a designer, you want to put logo, embroidery, rivets, buttons, this, that, all over, because you think that's like more appealing. But the customer is very simple-minded customer. Like you look at what a lot of people wear, they wear simple colors, black. Black's always your number one color, right? So I would say simplify it, and your logo and your trademark is your biggest asset that you could ever own, right?
Wow.
Simplify your logo and your trademark, and making sure you own your logo and your trademark before you do it. I've seen that happen to people a lot too. They'll establish a brand, don't register it, and then some other company will go and register your brand, they'll just own your brand, and that could happen just like that.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I've seen that happen to plenty of people. And not only that too, if you become popular in the United States, you now have to register your logo worldwide as well too, because somebody could go in Europe and register your brand and they'll just own it and try to sell it back to you or just take over your brand. Just things like that. And I feel establishing your customer and understanding who your customer is, you can't be everything to everybody, right? You got to say, that's my customer, black male, 14 to 24. This is the guy. This is what he looks like. This type of music he listens to, and narrow in on who that customer is. Don't try to go after him and try to go after the rock and roll guy and try to go after this guy, because that's what makes the brand, you have no identity to your brand. So that's really what's important. Those simple components to really make a brand successful.
That's wisdom. Great advice right there. And I got to ask, because like you said, there's been so many trends, but Karl Kani is still here. Longevity. I mean, how did you do it to still be relevant, still be hot, still be fly? And you started doing this in the late 80s. And then now we're here 40 years later. And Karl Kani is just is ringing bells, ringing your ears just like it was back then.
You know, I'll be honest with you, man. Timing is everything in this business. And I feel like when we started, it was nothing to compare what we were doing to anybody else. We started at a time where there was no black designers in the business. There was no one to look up to. We opened the doors up for all those brands you just mentioned right there. We opened the doors up for all of them.
Facts.
We toured down. We convinced the buyers that you could be young, black, and have a clothing brand with quality that's going to sell. I'm trying to say, that's hard to do. You know what I mean? We could put our stuff next to Tommy, Ralph, Calvin, and make a kid say, you know what? I ain't going to buy Ralph anymore. I'm buying Karl Kani. So once that started happening, people started realizing that you could buy a black designer, he's giving you dope quality and things like that. That's respect, right? So our main thing is outliving generations, meaning like you get a kid from junior high school through high school probably wearing the same brand, right? A lot of times when kids graduate high school, they start to change. They go to college. They don't want to look like high school kids anymore. They start to change the branding and stuff like that. So the key was, how do you now go back and get that young sixth grader again, starting to rock your brand? And through hip hop and culture is what's enabled us to do that, because people see the iconic things like Aaliyah. She had on Karl Kani on her first album cover, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. Those type of things are classic moments that you can't forget. all the song mentions that we had, Montel Jordan, Biggie, Nas, Dr. Dre, Snoop, mention the name of the song. Those are things that you just become implemented into culture. You can't take away. No other brand really to compare to that. And be a living person that's legit and people could relate to as well too. So that's a whole different, that's what separates us from many people that's out there right now.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned the golden era of hip hop, and you were a part of it. You're a staple in it. There, Biggie, Jay, all them people introducing you in or saying your name in they records. But we also got to talk about, the fashion industry in itself, the ups and downs of the fashion industry. You speak about being a black designer. What would be some of the downfalls that you experience, or even some of the things that you could say, hey, next generation, look out for this. This is what they're going to try to do to you.
So I would say this for sure. Nowadays, it's a lot easier, in my opinion, because there's online shopping now.
Yeah.
You could go directly to your customer now. Back in the days, you had to have the department store order. You had to have these stores.
Yeah.
And that was our kind of like slow down our business here, because when the market switched and everybody's like, oh, we want to go skinny jeans now. All the retailers said, you know what? We don't want nothing urban anymore.
Wow.
So all the urban brands, they didn't want it anymore. Everybody wanted a new look.
I remember that. That's where I lost my money.
Yeah. Everybody wanted a new look. But see, our blessing was that, when one door shut, many more doors open. We was like, you know what? We'll come back and get the United States market. Let's travel abroad and establish ourselves internationally right now. Because the international market pretty much is bigger than the USA market. You combine it all together, right?
Yeah.
So you take all the mistakes you might have made here and you take it there now. So over there now, we have such a stronghold on it. We learned from what we did here. We established our basics there. We established our marketing. And we established a brand that's multicultural, where, we have white people, black people, Asian people, different countries wearing the brand. And that's when you become a real brand, because you don't want to depend on any one market for your brand, because they could turn on you. You know what I'm saying? They could turn on you and want something else. Calvin don't do that. Ralph don't do that. Gucci don't do that. So why should you do that?
Man, that's wisdom right there. So establish your brand globally, so you don't have to be in the rat race of everybody else in the States.
That too, and establish your stuff online to have your online stores, your goals, because you could test things on there. You could be interaction with your customers. You get their emails. You could send them gifts. There's a lot of interaction with that, and that's really important today, especially with so much competition out there.
So throughout your journey, what was the most difficult experience or difficult time, being the mogul that you are and the fashion icon like this? It had to be some tough times, even just, having a staff and, delegating and, figuring out what to do with all this bread. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would say time that really kind of fucked with me a little bit was when I was 23, 24, and we were partners with Skechers, the footwear company Skechers.
Yeah.
All right, so me and Skechers were partners together back then, right? Robert Greenberg from Skechers, and they were doing the Karl Kani shoes, and we was competing straight against Timberland. We had, commercials, we had, the boots, the Karl Kani boots with metal plate on, everything was going well. So me and Robert talked. Me and Robert talked, and we said, let's get into athletic footwear business. I was like, cool. Well, now we want to do basketball shoes. So we designed a line of basketball shoes, and we had 15 NBA players wearing Karl Kani on the courts. We had Derek Fisher, Karl Malone. We signed John Wallace, the #1 pick for the New York Knicks in 1996.
Yeah.
And the whole idea was we was going to go public. Take Karl Kani public on the stock market.
Wow.
Right?
At 24.
Yeah, 24. So now, it sounds good, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Robert and his team kind of felt, they didn't say this to me, this is what the feeling that I got based on the way it went down. They're looking like, look, man, you're young and you're black. You should be happy that you could even go in public. So whatever you get, you should be happy with the royalties you get. So I wasn't getting any big shares of the stocks in the public market. They were just saying you're going to get a lot of money off your royalties. So I said, hold on, this don't sound right to me. I was like, no. Because, there was no internet to really research. You had to figure it out. So I did a little bit of research. I found out who Ralph Lauren lawyers were, who took him public, and I contacted them. I said, look, I need some help. This company wants me to go public. And when they looked at it, it's like, nah, man, this deal is not right for you. It says you can lose your brand. You lose your name because your trademark has to be part of the public company, right? So I thought about it, and I decided I ain't gonna sign the papers.
Wow.
I told Robert I ain't gonna sign it. Man, they got pissed. They got, because no one tells them no.
Right,
You know what I'm trying
right,
to say?
right.
Because keep in mind, Robert he had just sold LA Gear.
Oh, wow.
He just owned LA Gear, just sold that. Now,
Yeah.
now he's looking to get back into the business. He didn't even start sketches yet. He
Oh,
was
okay.
thinking about sketch, but he said, okay, let me do Karl Kani first, right?
Yeah.
So when I said no, they shut everything down. They stopped paying my money. They wasn't talking to me.
Wow.
And this is when other competitors started coming on the market, and I couldn't put my product out there we wanted to because we kind of stuck in this little battle with Robert. So one day, man, I just lost it. I just went to his office, and my son was just born at the time. I went to his office. He wouldn't talk to me like for a month or two. And I knocked on the door. His assistant said, "Oh, Robert said he'll take you to lunch next week. He's in a meeting." I said, "I ain't leaving."
Yeah.
I said, I ain't leaving. I sat there and I just walked into his meeting. He was sitting there with some bankers. I walked and I sat down to me like I was part of it. And I said, "I'm not leaving." I said, "I need to talk to you." He turned really red. He came out and he just was really pissed. He read me my rights. He told me how pissed he was. I didn't sign the papers and how much money he wants back for me, this and that. So I said, "Man, I'll be willing to do anything to get my brand back and get up out of here." So he gave me a deal that was one of the most bogus deals ever in the world to pay him back. The figure was like $12 million, which I didn't have at the time.
Right.
But here was the deal. He said I could pay him in payments every quarter. You make quarterly payments of $500,000 a quarter till you pay it off. But here's the catch. If you miss a payment, he gives you a letter that we have to pay the whole lump sum in 30 days. And if not, the trademarks go back to him that he owns.
Oh, wow.
My lawyers tell me, don't sign it. Everyone said, "You're crazy. Don't sign it."
Yeah.
You know what I did? Signed.
Inside.
I wanted my brand back that bad.
Yeah.
So we got it back, and we was able to make all the payments, pay them off, and here we are
Didn't miss
today.
a payment.
Didn't miss a payment, man.
Got your brand back.
And I never sold out. I own my brand 100%. You know, a lot of these other companies, they sold out to bigger corporations and stuff like that. Karl Kani's owned 100% by a black person, by me.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, do you regret not going public?
You know what? I never know the answer to that because I see companies go public, some work, some don't, right? I don't know where I would be today if I did that deal. I know for sure I probably would not own my name. I'll probably just have to collect some royalties from my name.
That's the thing, where there's so many brands that you think, oh, that person I know that person. And then that they don't even own their name.
No. And the thing about the fashion business, it does help when you're part of the public company because the one thing that Ralph Lauren, Tommy Hilfiger, Donna Karan, Giorgio Armani, even Guess has in common, they're all part of a public entity.
Right.
They're all on the stock market.
Yeah.
So if you have a bad season, you could always flush some money into a new advertisement campaign and stuff like that. So no people forget what happened, right? Or if you have a bad season, you always could just dump that inventory and re-up on some other stuff.
Yeah.
If you don't have that type of finance behind you, 1 or 2 bad seasons, you're done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's kind of way. That's the reason why those guys have been around and still going to be around forever because that kind of finance they have behind them.
Interesting. But I mean, you own your brand 100%, has been around for decades just like they have. So, I mean, you're doing something right. You know what I mean? And so I always have to ask in this setting, what is Karl Kani's greatest life lesson?
Greatest life lesson for myself? It could be personal or business.
Yeah, whatever.
Personal business.
Whatever you think.
I would say that the lessons I've learned is that it's like a twofold thing. You know, sometimes you're so laser focused on your goals and your dreams, you kind of could forget about loved ones around you. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And I could definitely say I've probably done that.
Yeah.
Right? Not intentionally, but because this is the only thing I really care about so much, the success and keeping this thing going and not losing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I always had this thing in my mind, like, I can never go back to Brooklyn not successful. You know what I'm saying? I'll go back to there's nothing to go back to.
Yeah.
So that's enough. Sometimes you need something that you fear to make you work hard.
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say? I fear going back around the way again.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, I neglected a lot of people around me, family members probably, that I could have had more strong relationships with, but I was so laser focused on what I did. So after we finally got to the point where I feel successful, I went back and tried to mend some of these relationships. But you know, people miss you and they want you around. You know what I'm saying? So I would say that the family's still important, and I would probably do it a little bit different if I had to. But you know, we have to do what we got to do to make it.
Yeah, I definitely recall and remember those days, man. And like Karl Kani, to get into a Karl Kani party or like just the name and like it was you were definitely like untouchable status in that sense of having the mansion on the hill and off of Laurel Canyon and all of that. Like so I could imagine when one is at the heights. I mean, I'm pretty sure you inspired all of the future fashion moguls that even like we discussed because you were doing it at that level. Like a Karl Kani party was the party to be at, and did did that or how did all of that energy get to you and, being the hottest man in fashion and hip hop culture, to be honest?
Yo, we so look forward to every magic show to
Yeah.
go there and dominate. Like we used to bring all of our sales reps to LA. They used to come stay at my house and we used to go to dinner. It was like a family unit. It was such a great feeling when we walked into Magic,
Yeah.
me and all the brothers coming through, getting the respect that we needed, the respect that we wanted. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That
And we got laid to land like the Magic convention in Las Vegas, or it was still in Vegas. Yo, it literally was like the show of all shows. It was the money was in the room. This is where it's really a convention center where people, retailers from all over the country, come out to purchase the hottest brands. And they got all of these magnificent and elaborate booths. And really, you had to build your booth up to such a extravagant manner because that's how people knew, oh, they got it. Or they so it's really a way to kind of get your peacock on and poke your chest out. So sometimes people's booths would be the size of a mall. You know what I mean? And you go in and there's rappers in there performing, there's hot chicks out wearing so like everybody's competing with everybody. And Karl Kani was at the top of the heap.
Yeah, man, it was such a great experience to be there. And like, we brought Redman out for our 10th anniversary. Snoop came out. And the support that we've got from hip hop has been, second to none, man.
Yeah.
We've really received a lot of love and support from hip hop artists. And those are one of the big things that really help propel our brand to be where it is today, for sure.
Yeah. So then, again, there's so many people watching this that are inspired and, knew your story, didn't know some details of the story, but really are looking to learn from you. And you dropped some great wisdom thus far. But in this, I kind of break it down just so maybe somebody isn't looking to start a fashion brand, but they just want to be a businessman like you, or maybe somebody wants to be in reach the level of success you've reached, or maybe they do want to be in fashion. I have to ask you, what are your 5 steps to success?
Well, step one to me is like, if you decide that you want to be a business owner, entrepreneur, you got to make a commitment to yourself to accept every single thing that comes along with that journey. Otherwise, if you're gonna complain about it or be stressed out about it, just go be a worker. Let a real boss deal with that. If you're gonna be whining, right?
Yeah.
So the other thing I would say is this: when I was coming up, I'm just telling you things that I did.
Yeah.
When I was coming up, doesn't matter because we used to party, go out, drink, whatever. Even if I came home 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, by 7:30, 8 o'clock, I'm back on it. Doesn't matter. I'm on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you sleep when you're old. You know what I'm saying? You got to make it now. And you never want to be sleep when your competition is working. You feel me?
Never want to be seen with a competition work.
Nah.
So you got to dedicate yourself to the grind
Absolutely.
and the hustle.
And not only that, too, you got to love the grind. You got to look forward to the grind. You can't, if you complain about the grind, it's not for you.
Right.
You ain't built for this. Right? Just suck it up, go eat some milk and cookies, and then find a job.
All right, so that one is make the commitment to yourself to accept all that comes with your journey. 2, you gotta love and dedicate yourself to the grind and hustle. What's the third thing?
Third thing is like vision. If you can't see it, you can't be it. You can never get to where you're going if you don't know where you want to be. I learn a lot of times people say, man, I want to be successful. I want to do this. I want to do that. But doing what though?
Right.
What's your plan?
Right.
How you going to get there? Yeah. Right. So all those things to me is so important.
Having vision.
Especially
in the space of fashion. You got to know what's the next trend or what people are going to be on. So vision is important.
Important in any business you do. Fashion for sure, but in anything that you do, whether it's hip hop, music, you want to be an accountant, whatever, you want to be the best that you can be. The next one I would say is that vision, focus. Understanding people is such a key to business, because understanding people is all about personalities, right? And a lot of times it ain't about right and wrong. It's all about understanding someone's personality. And if you feel that you need something from them, you got to play into their hand to accomplish what you want. It's not about ego, right? You got to have a goal and get what you want no matter what, right? So if it's somebody who's bigger than you, has a big ego, feed into his ego. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what he say. You just want to make sure you accomplish your goal.
Right.
Understanding people to me is very important in business. What I realized too, like we deal with people in Japan and in Germany, and German people, they're very like no nonsense, right? And they don't joke around like they do. They don't find things that's funny that we may find funny. So it took me a minute to kind of figure out how they are. But what I do like about them though is their work ethics. They work hard. They work very militant style. All the employees know where they are, and their employees understand their position in the company.
Right.
This employee here, he's happy with being here.
Right.
He's not going to try to topple the main guy here. You know what I'm trying to say? They understand the position. So understanding people is very important. That's the reason we have such a good staff over there, because everyone understands their position, understand their goals, understand the direction where we're trying to go.
That's amazing. So even in number 4, understanding people, like they say, people have to buy into the leader before they buy into the leadership. So if you understand what, your customer or even the people following you actually want, and you know how to communicate with them, and they love you and believe in your vision, you got to be successful. So finally, the 5th thing.
5th one, here you go. If somebody's to ask you, what's the greatest gift in life? I'm going to tell you my answer. And it's free. Everyone in here has it. It's thought. Imagine that only rich people could think. You have to have money to think, and money to thought. Somebody thought about how to fly a plane. Somebody thought about how to get to the moon. It just didn't happen. Somebody thought about this, right? So like downtime, lone time, use that space to think, because with thought, you can accomplish anything you want to accomplish.
Figure out every problem
with free thought, man. And thought is such a happy space in your mind if you learn to enjoy it.
Embrace thought, never stop thinking. Man, this is amazing. Number 1, make a commitment to yourself to accept all that comes with whatever your journey you've set. 2, love and dedicate yourself to the grind. Make sure, aka hustle. 3, you got to have vision. If you can't see it, then you can't be it. Number 4, you got to understand people as a true leader. I mean, that's one of the greatest things I've ever heard. And then 5, embrace thought. Never stop thinking. Man, powerful stuff. I definitely have to say I've learned a lot. You inspired me before, and this has even inspired me even more, because to hear the journey, I understand the longevity now. I understand your process. Always been a chill dude. Never been like, you just always just seem so zen. So I see all the elements there that you play out in success. He got a bonus one.
And you know this, we both do it. Your mental and your physical goes together for success.
Yes.
Business is warfare. Business is a marathon, not a sprint. You got to be in this for the long haul.
You got to be
in
shape.
Long haul. You got to be in shape. Mentally and physically. Yeah, because sometimes every day is not going to be your best day. But if you feel good and you physically feel good, you could override that. Because you look at another man who ain't working out, you could be like, yo, I'm going to dominate this dude right here. I got
I'm
this.
doing something.
I got this.
I'm up in the morning getting to it, and they not. So therefore I have an edge.
Yeah, sometimes you just need that little one heads up mentally in order to keep yourself propelling to dominate over a period of time.
It's Warriors mentality right there. Well, you know what? This has been definitely one of my favorite Candace classes. I know y'all definitely got something out of this. It's an education platform for the everyday man, and you seen how somebody came from nothing and became a true mogul and a pioneer and the godfather of streetwear, and true story from rags to riches, and created a household name and a brand. I thank you so very much, Mr. Karl Kani.
Thank you, sir.
Class adjourned.